Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. I'm going to talk today about the Hughie Fury Joseph Parker fight. Going to touch on the Chris Eubank, where he goes from here, and David Price as well. We're going to talk about him. I've got Sean with me again. So, Sean, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. As always, pleasure to be back on the channel. It's been a while since we've had a chat, isn't it? So, yeah, I think after weekend's fights and some upcoming fights that come along, I think we've got a good few things to talk about.
Yeah,
Hughie Fury versus Parker, certainly being one of them. One that I'm sure all fight fans, and especially fans of the heavyweight division, will all be very much looking forward to seeing. So, I'll let you head away with that.
yeah,
I've got loads of views on it.
yeah. It's a good fight, mate. I mean, I'm on the fence at the moment. I haven't really got a prediction as such. I can see it being a very competitive fight. It's a big step up for Hughie Fury, but potentially it's a step up for Joseph Parker as well. I think it's definitely a step up in terms of that style. From what I've seen, I haven't seen him fight anyone as a good sort of technical boxer as Hughie Fury. He's tall, good range, good movement. In his last couple of fights, obviously fought what's his name, Andy Ruiz. Before that, Carlos Takam, a few other people. So he's fought some decent people, but he hasn't really fought anyone like Hughie Fury that I've seen. And Hughie Fury on his side, I mean, he hasn't fought anyone as good as Joseph Parker. I
No.
mean, he's kind of gone under the radar a bit, hasn't he, Fury? What's your first thoughts of this?
Well, I think, like you say, like I mean, you got to look at. First of all, if you looked at both resumes, like you look at Joseph Parker, and like you said, like he's got some fairly big wins under his belt. I mean, bar the very top of the scene when you sit there and you put the Wilders, the Furies, the Klitschko's together and whatever. I mean, like he's beaten the likes of Andy Ruiz Jr., who's been seen as a respected heavyweight across the division, hasn't he? No arguments there.
Right. Good disciplined performance by Parker as well.
It was, yeah, and I really thought I did think Parker won it. I know it was a majority decision, but little bit of speculation here and there. But I thought that I did think he nipped it.
Yeah, I
Um,
did. I think he won. I mean, people talking about. I think any time there's a fight in another country now, and it's sort of close-ish, people just say it's a robbery. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, some people saying, like Ruiz he wasn't wrong. So I think it was a competitive fight, but I definitely thought Parker won the fight.
yeah, no, and I totally agree. And kind of moving on from that point, I mean, like I want to go back to where you kind of started off about styles, and
Yeah,
obviously the whole styles make fights slogan bores everyone to tears. But realistically, yeah,
you know,
they have not fought anyone like each other. You got Hughie Fury, who's like quite a large man. I think he's a bit taller than Parker. From
yeah,
what I believe, I don't think that's necessarily going to be that like much of an issue in the fight. I think that they're both going to be kind of tit for tat. I think Hughie Fury definitely has the potential ability to outbox Parker, but Will Parker's experience with fighting better fighters just nip, like let's just say a 7-5 if it came down to points, which in my eyes, and if I was a betting man, I think this one very much could come down to points. I think both will be quite defensively minded. I think they'll be looking to play the boxer. I think Joseph Parker may be slightly more aggressive than Hughie Fury will be, but I don't know. I mean, I really think the fight's going to be close, and that's why it's so
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. I mean, Fury. He doesn't have Hughie Fury doesn't have the experience necessarily like with the opponents in the ring as such or in competitive fights. But he's come up like training some quite young with Tyson Fury, Eddie Chambers, people like that. Some very good training camps where I think he's been under good tutelage. He's had a lot of good experience. He's learned a lot from quite young in that company.
Yeah,
I think if he's anything like, I mean, he's got a different kind of, well, he's got a very different personality to Tyson, but I still think he's got that kind of mental toughness about him. I
yeah,
reckon, and I
yeah,
don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to underperform. Do you know what I mean? I think he'll go in there and he'll do the best he can. I personally think that think he's quite a bit taller. I mean, not massively taller, but maybe he does have quite a reach advantage, and he uses it quite well, and he moves well as well. I think Parker's probably quicker than him. He's got quicker hands, possibly like quite quicker feet as well, probably quicker feet. But I can see Hughie if he, it's kind of his fight to lose if he puts on a real good performance.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I did really want to say about this particular fight is um, obviously Tyson Fury's prime sparring partner, I do believe, before the Klitschko fight was Joseph Parker. So you can
Yeah,
imagine. I think, well, for this, I know as a fact that Tyson Fury was definitely sparring against Parker before Klitschko. Whether his
mm,
prime sparring partner is another thing altogether, but that's out there anyway. So there's a good chance that Fury's probably been in the ring with him if that's the case as well. And
right.
I think the Fury team would have weighed up what they see Hughie to be, what they see Parker to be, and obviously it's a massive. It's the biggest easy fight for Hughie to get a
Well,
world title, isn't it?
yeah, well, I think they were in negotiations with fighting Deontay Wilder or Joseph Parker. I think as much as anything, they would have chose the Joseph Parker option because they would have been mandatory. And then they would have had better options, in the contracts and stuff like that.
Mm.
But I still think they probably would have seen that as an easier way to win a title than against Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think anyone can argue with that. I mean,
One, one
I
thing I was
go on. Sorry.
sorry. All right, well, no, one thing I was going to say. The thing with like Joseph Parker is a lot of people would think, well, it was close against Andy Ruiz and Carlos Takam. He had a couple of hairy moments in there as well, didn't he? Kind of gassed out like halfway through,
Yeah.
and like a couple of rounds off, Carlos Takam pretty much let him off the hook. But I think that's all good experience for him. And one thing I would say is when he has been up against it, he's pretty composed and he's managed to find a way to win. The two times he has been, he has like had to face adversity. He's dealt with it and he's done it using his brain as well. When he was first getting talked about, people were talking about his hand speed. He's got a good punch on him, quick feet, and it was his physical attributes that everyone was talking about. But I do think he's shown quite a good boxing brain and quite good composure when he's needed to as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not say the same about Hughie Fury. I mean, he hasn't been in with the same people, but Hughie's done quite a few 8 rounders to 12 rounders, hasn't he? And he's gone through, and he hasn't necessarily looked that knackered. I know the Furies have all said that he's been ill, and they finally got him back on form and on track, and they've realised whatever was causing whatever deficiency he had,
Yeah,
they've got rid of that. But Hughie's always looked good to me from start to finish in every fight, pretty much. So I don't see either one of theirs gas tank essentially going down in the fight, which is why I think it's another brilliant fight, because if one of them essentially knows that they're behind, then you could see some fireworks at the end of it, which would be great, especially from Parker's side, because I could see Fury having a pretty good first 7, 8 rounds, and Parker's team knowing they're behind, and then seeing Parker coming in and literally throwing haymakers and all that. I think that could be a feasible way of how the fight goes, and I think that that's why it's so exciting. But equally
I
on the
think
other side, there's
Well, the fact that it's very difficult to pick a winner, which straight away tells you it's a good fight. How big do you think a factor will be the fight being in New Zealand?
I can't really answer that question. I mean,
It's a big time difference, isn't it? I mean, he's going to have to go out there. I don't know how much. I mean, he's going to have to give himself some time to get used to it.
it needs a
It's
couple
12
of weeks,
hours.
won't it?
It's 12 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's 13 hours actually. I think
Perfect.
my best friend's out there at the moment. I think it's
Right.
13 hours. Yeah, he's gonna need a couple of weeks to get used to the time difference. I mean,
Yeah.
one
And what?
one thing I will mention as well. I'm not sure if New Zealand have the same restrictions that America has, but is Peter even going to be able to go over there? He's
Because
got
of
a
his
criminal
criminal record,
record.
mate.
Yeah, I haven't even heard about that. And it's not something I looked into.
Yeah, I've got no idea. To be honest, I don't know what the situation is with New Zealand.
Yeah.
That would be a big. If that is the case, because you saw like, when Tyson went out there to fight Steve Cunningham and Peter Fury couldn't go. Tyson Fury kind of went a bit mad, didn't he? And he
Got
just
put on
fought
his arse, mate.
fought a very reckless fight.
Yeah, yeah, it
I mean,
was.
that was a big step up for him as well. I mean, against, okay, like Steve Cunningham was smaller, but he's a very, very good fighter, very skillful, like world champion. So, and obviously Tyson Fury, he really, I mean, they're different personalities, aren't they? I think
Yeah.
Tyson Fury is the kind of person who really wanted to, put a show on. First time in fighting in America, Madison Square Gardens. It's obviously like an iconic venue. I can see him getting a bit carried away. Hughie Fury, I think if who is like what's his Clifton? What's his name? Clifton Mitchell, is it? I can't remember sorry, I've forgotten his name. The assistant trainer.
I can't even tell you that myself, mate.
But
To be
anyway,
honest.
if he's out there with Hughie, I can see Hughie being a bit more level-headed and it not making quite as much of a difference.
Yeah.
Not if that is the case, it's not ideal, but I can see him being a bit more measured anyway, and just a bit more of a. I mean, he's a similar kind of age to what Tyson was, I suppose, then, but he's not, same kind of personality.
He's not, but if you notice one thing about Hughie Fury is his personality through media interviews and whatever. He's certainly not as shy, and he's certainly opened his mouth a bit more.
Yeah, he's starting to more now, isn't
He is. He's sitting there saying that me and Tyson are going to rule the division. We're gonna, do this and that, and I like hearing it from him. Like he
he?
seems quite humble when he says it. And I think every fighter's like, especially if they're promoting themselves on a media platform, they've got to do it. And with Hughie, you really like seeing it because he doesn't come across as a wanker. I think Hughie Fury's he comes across as a really good guy, doesn't he? And I
Oh
quite
yeah,
like to see him do well.
yeah,
And it's the same with Tyson for me. Tyson's just a wind-up merchant. There's
yeah.
loads
I
of
really like
disagreement with that,
Tyson Fury.
but
I really like Tyson Fury, but I can understand why some other people don't. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Hughie Fury, I couldn't really understand why people wouldn't like him.
yeah, well, I don't think you've ever probably seen a negative word about Hughie, have you?
You see quite on like YouTube and stuff like you see a few comments like, but not like nothing like Tyson, not like hating on him so to speak, just saying ah he's shit, he's fucking
Overrated. That's
yeah,
all you see about Hughie, and that's just
yeah,
people who
nothing
don't really have a
personal.
clue. Yeah, yeah,
Never
yeah.
seen him. Yeah. Well, I should also yeah. So for now, personally, I don't have a prediction as such. I think it's going to be close. I'm kind of, I think the Hughie Fury's got the potential to do it, but at the same time, Joseph Parker, we haven't really seen how good he can be either, have we?
We
It's
haven't.
quite an intriguing one. I mean, I'll probably nearer the time make an actual prediction for it, but right now I'm going to stay on the fence.
I mean, Parker's at home, so bearing that in mind, I'm along with you. I'm pretty much going to refuse to make a decision on who I think's going to win. My heart's with Hughie Fury. I think if the best of each fighter's turned up on the night and it didn't matter where it was and the judging went fairly, I'd maybe say Hughie Fury, but then you've got a lot of people that would hardly disagree due to all the credentials Parker's got, and
Before, before
rightfully
we
so, to be honest.
before we move on, there's one thing I want to just quickly get your opinion on. Frank Warren lost the purse bid, just signed a deal with BT. You know, kind of giving it the big end, like, oh, we're going to now sort of take over, not take over, but now everyone was going to come with us, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. First chance at a serious like world title fight, and kind of flopped. I mean, I don't think the bid that Duco promote is it Duco promotion what they put in was particularly big. Didn't seem like they really made that much of an effort.
I think the thing you might want to consider here is what would BT have necessarily earned off of that fight had they won the purse bid.
Well, I suppose if any like kind of prestige, and people would have taken them a bit more seriously. It's a good way to. They're obviously making a big investment in it, aren't they? So to start off their boxing career, if they want to, rival Sky, then like a heavyweight title fight would have been quite a good way to get the ball rolling, I think.
Agreed, but at the same time, I think I don't know when you look at figures possibly that would be attracted from the Australian public. I don't know. I,
New
I think
Zealand.
New Zealand. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I've had a long day at work today. But the Aussies will be watching that as well, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think that there's a much
Hughie
higher
Fury. Hughie
possibility.
Fury. Hughie Fury's not a big draw, is he? Let's be honest.
In England, he's not a big draw, and that was the point I was making. Why would BT necessarily invest that much money in him?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it would have been that big an investment. I don't think the bid they put in was particularly big. I personally think it would have been quite a good coup for them and a good way to really get the ball rolling, as I said, and make themselves look serious in this as a competitor to Sky. But anyway, let's move on because we've talked about this for a while. Let's talk about Chris Eubank, Reynold Quinlan, new IBO super middleweight champion. First of all, what's your take on his performance?
Um, uh, this is exactly what I wanted you to ask me prior to doing this video. What did I see from Chris Eubank Jr. that I haven't seen before? And that is absolutely nothing. In my eyes, what we see from Chris Eubank is we see some flashy combinations. We see some very poor boxing skills that essentially come out of what I see a like bad amateur pedigree. You see him making so many bad mistakes in the fight. His feet, although he's trying to look all flash and whatever, his feet seem to be a bit silly in places. His movement's a bit bad, and I think that from an elite fighter's perspective, I think they'll all look at him and they'll all fancy the fight, especially after watching that. I mean, he's not powerful at 168, and he's not necessarily that powerful at 160. He's stopping people through pure and utter just relentlessness. He's not stopping them from one punch shots, and yeah, that's I've got no difference in opinion on Eubank Jr. other than the fact that I think he's going to get exposed, and that's it for me.
Well, I think that he's unorthodox in his style. He's not like a typically well-schooled boxer, is he? He's more of a fighter than a boxer. He loves just launching in with big combinations, like you say, very flashy. And quite often he's just literally sort of lunging or leaping in with like big swinging like hooks. Comes in like with his uppercuts. He's reckless, but that's kind of what makes him entertaining, isn't it? At the same time, it is difficult to fight against. It seems to be anyway. I mean, Billy Joe Saunders is very slick, very difficult to hit. He's obviously a southpaw as well, and that was a big step up for Eubank at that time. So he could just see his wild swings coming a mile off. So I think against people like that, he's going to have difficulty. I mean, Saunders kind of gassed out a bit, didn't he, towards the end, then he came back into it. But someone who moves well, has got quite a good defence, got quite, quick feet, it's going to be quite difficult for Eubank, I think. But one problem that anyone fighting him is going to have, in my opinion, is just the work rate that he has. I mean, he was literally, what was it, the 10th round that was?
It was a 10th round stoppage, yeah, it was.
Yeah, but he was he was tough as old boots, that Quinlan, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he was.
Although it was a bit of it was a Mickey Mouse title, but let's not forget, he did go up in weight. So he's still fighting someone like quite a bit bigger, well, not quite a bit bigger, but bigger than he's used to. And he was just basically on him every minute of every round. And he can just keep that work rate up by the looks of it. So that is a problem, really, for anyone. If he's got as good a chin as his dad had, and by the looks of it so far, we haven't really seen him hit by anyone particularly notable puncher, have we? But if you combine a very good chin and an outstanding work rate, it's quite a difficult opponent to beat.
It is, but then let me pose you a question. Before I pose you the question, I'll just out and out say Eubank Jr. is a 160-pound fighter in my eyes. Going up is a big mistake. I don't believe that his skills are going to be truly glorified at 168. But my question I want to pose is, what do you think Callum Smith would do to Chris Eubank Jr.?
Well, I kind of said, kind of when he was going to fight Tommy Langford, I thought that Tommy Langford, as kind of untested as he was, would be a difficult fight for him because Tommy Langford, he kind of got quite rangy and he keeps it long. Callum Smith does the same thing, doesn't he?
Mm.
The only way in I could see for Eubank is that Callum Smith has got like quite a typical just sort of tight guard. Do you know what I mean? And he sort of holds it up like that, and I could see Eubank like maybe cutting in with some uppercuts, which is obviously his bread and butter, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think Callum Smith, if he falls sensibly, he's obviously a hard puncher. He fights from long distance, and if he could keep that, and he just with Eubank, if you see them coming with these like lunging in and just keep discipline, keep a good straight punches, and keep like little step back when you need to here and there. Really, I think you can nullify him if you're a good technical fighter.
Which Callum
Having
Smith
said that,
is.
yeah, I think Callum Smith would be a very difficult fight for him. I think that's I wouldn't favour Eubank in that at all, especially going up in weight and the fact that Chris Eubank doesn't really have a particularly hard punch. But I could see him getting some good uppercuts in potentially, and he's very athletic. Eubank, he can move around a lot and he changes up the angles very well.
Yeah. Well, you.
No, I wouldn't be picking Eubank in that fight. I'll tell you that, but. I certainly wouldn't see it as an easy night's work for Callum Smith either. I'd favour Eubank more against James DeGale than Callum Smith. I think stylistically, that would be a better fight for him.
Yeah. I still think James DeGale wins that fight every day of the week. I mean, I know he's James DeGale's last fight. I mean, you can pick the pros and cons out of that last fight, but James DeGale's movement from the last fight, as you can see, is elite. Like you can't question his movement. It's good. He did get hit a lot, but Eubanks has neither the height nor the reach nor the power to one knock teeth out, two bruise up DeGale's face, or three hit DeGale
Yeah,
as much
well,
as Badu Jack did.
well,
So
Badu Jack is much bigger and physically stronger than Chris Eubank, isn't he? He's a much more imposing character, just like walking you down.
yeah,
But at the same time, James DeGale, he doesn't have great stamina, and he does like to, take breaks here and there. So I think someone like Chris Eubank, just on him all the time, just throwing punches all the time, leaping in, I could see him being quite, at the very least, a tough fight for James DeGale, just based really on the amount of punches he throws and the amount of how much he presses the action.
yeah,
I could see James DeGale like kind of wanting to just sort of chill out every now and then. Eubank just on him, potentially picking up rounds, just where DeGale just can't really be bothered to fight at that pace.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it's not like James DeGale's a big punt really either to kind of keep him. He's not physically particularly strong. Somebody like Callum Smith, I could see him keeping Eubank off him better. DeGale, not physically that strong, not a massive puncher, so I don't really see him finding it that easy to keep Eubank off him. I think he could outclass him, but I think it would be difficult for him.
yeah. I mean, I want to go back and sit there and say I'm by no means a Eubank hater. I think he's great for the game. He's very exciting to watch, and yeah, he'll cause anyone between 160 and 168 a lot of problems. But yeah, 168 for me is not the division for him. And I think someone like DeGale is a far better fighter, far better pedigree.
Yeah,
And Eubank would have to go in and beat the likes of him or Groves or someone like that to prove me wrong. But for now, Eubank's beating absolutely no one that gives him any right for me to sit there and think that he'll do anything at 168, let alone 160, where he's got so much to prove anyway.
Martin Murray is one they're talking about, which would probably be quite a good fight for him because he's not at the level of like Groves, DeGale, Callum Smith, but he's better level than like Ranald Quinlan, and he's a solid fighter. Been in there obviously with Golovkin, Martinez, amongst Felix Sturm, what's his name, Abraham Grove. I mean, he's really been in there with some good fighters.
Can I ask before you continue, do you want to see that fight though?
Do I want to?
Do you want to see Murray? Do you really want to see Murray Eubank?
Not especially, but I could see that fight being made. I mean, I don't think that there are that many other people who are going to be in a hurry really to fight. I mean, James DeGale, George Groves, they've really got bigger fish to fry right now. Callum Smith, he's about to fight Anthony Durrell. Golovkin, I mean, does Eubank really want to fight Golovkin at the
Yeah, not
moment?
sure. Not sure.
You know what I mean?
Martin
Billy
Murray.
Johnson, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. I think Martin Murray. Yeah, when you say it like that, he is a possible feasible option. You've seen him open his mouth. I've seen a video of Martin Murray saying, "Yeah, I could get it on with Eubank," and you've got what's the other one? Jamie Cox, Jamie Fox. What's his name?
Jamie
Jamie
Cox.
Cox.
Yeah.
He's opened his mouth about Eubank as well. But I think the Eubanks would be far more likely to take the Murray fight, just because of the name.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go on.
No. I'll allow you to continue. Sorry, no, I'm
No,
getting my
all I
thoughts
want to
going.
say, especially because to the British public, if you wanted to do this whole IT thing, Martin Murray's obviously much better known, isn't he, than Jamie Cox?
He is, yes, and that's why the fight would make more sense. And the Eubanks essentially, like, what I really feel like they're actually doing is if they were to go on to fight Murray, which, thinking about it now whilst we're speaking, really does make sense, because I think Eubank has a really good chance of beating Murray. And I think if I was a betting man, I'd give him a 60-40, 70-30 of actually beating him, because I thought Murray was that unimpressive in his last performance against Groves.
Yeah. He's not a big middleweight, a big super middleweight either.
No, yeah, I just think that he'll if he were to beat Murray in his next fight, as an example, I think he's waiting for as long as possible to get Triple G essentially as old as possible, and catch him right at the right time, where it's essentially you've lost your prime, and that's when he'll come in and they'll think they're the bollocks, and you know basically
He's
say
got
he's
to
Mr. Pound for Pound.
he's got to get some kind of defence before he gets in there with Triple G. I mean, he can say that he's got a good chin and you know all this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you can't be getting hit like he gets hit off Golovkin. You have to be a bit more defensively minded at times, at least. Do you know what I mean? Not saying you got to like sort of get on the back foot and like that's the worst thing you can do, but still at times you got to keep your defence a bit tighter than Eubank does before he starts thinking about fights like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the next fight very interesting for you, Bank. Where does he go? I really don't see Saunders taking the fight. I personally don't see Saunders fighting him again unless he gets desperate for money. I think, as I said in the previous one of your videos, I think Saunders would rather spite him. He'd rather
Yeah,
spite him. Saunders
yeah,
has already said he's earned enough money off of boxing, and I
yeah,
think he'd rather wind Chris Eubank up till the day
yeah.
of his death than
He likes having that over him, doesn't he?
he does. He
'Cause
loves it.
it's risky for him if they fight. He could obviously lose, so he likes to be able to just say, "Ah, yeah, but I've already beaten you. You're shit," and blah blah blah.
Exactly.
So,
So
I do like the. Obviously, we've heard it before. I do like at least the noises coming out of the Eubank camp. They're talking a good game at least. So I think this sort of IBO title is it's obviously a Mickey Mouse title, but at least now in their minds they're talking about as if now we're gonna like be fighting people like DeGale, Callum Smith, Ramirez, whoever. According to what they're saying, at least they see themselves in that bracket. So if they are serious, they do want to fight with these people. That's good at least. Do you know what I mean? I want to see them try and take all these. Well, I see him being brainwashed by Chris Eubank Senior. I want to see Chris Eubank Junior get in there and try and fight with these people.
well, hopefully he does. I think we'll see in the next 3 months when. Well, they say they want to fight in April. I think that's bollocks. I just can't see that happening whatsoever. But if they do, brilliant. But I think we'll see in the next, let's just say 2 months as a prediction from me.
Yeah,
We'll find out his next possible fight within 2 to 3 months, and then I think we can judge based upon that where the Eubanks are looking to go from there, realistically.
yeah. All right, let's finish up then with talk about David Price, because it's pretty sad, really. Like what happened with him. I've always liked David Price. He was massively overhyped at first, but he's always been someone that you want to see do well. You know what I mean? He's a good bloke. Never really hear him with a bad word to say about anyone. But he's just been like stopped again by sort of, not like a European level fight. He's not a bad fighter, Christian Hammer, but he's not. You can't really be getting knocked out by him. When you've been knocked out various times before at his age and expect to really do much, can you?
Nah, I mean, exactly. I think that fight on a world kind of level is certainly that. Not that it was a world level fight, but that is the end of his career with regards to ever moving up to that level again. I think the best fights that David Price could ever hope for would be the likes of someone like Derek Chisora. I'm not saying he'd ever get the fight.
Yeah.
I think the best fights that he could possibly get, money wise and obviously interest wise, would be with someone like Chisora or Dillian White off of a loss or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think David Price essentially, as much as I do like him, because in videos he seems spot on recently, but yeah, his gas tank just has not been good enough. Showed me how he got knocked out, and yeah.
At one point, do you remember he was literally just like leaning forward like this? He looked like he just had about 20 pints, and he was like in the pub, and he just sort of get up to go somewhere. He literally sort of like leaning forward, like it just looked ridiculous. And then like Hammer hit him once with an uppercut, and then he kind of woke up a little bit. But he was just absolutely, I don't know. After about 2 rounds, he was just completely out on his feet, wasn't
he? Yeah, he's always a good starter, Pricey. But yeah, he doesn't have the gas tank, and you've seen him. I was watching him a few months prior to the fight, and I was kind of seeing the size of him, whatever, and he's got like quite heavy man boobs and whatever, and he never looks quite in shape. And unfortunately for him, he's not Tyson Fury. He can't get in shape and then just be the bollocks. He's out of shape and he's unable to maintain his decent boxing ability. Because if anyone said he weren't a decent boxer, I'd argue all day with them. I think he can be a decent boxer, but he just hasn't got the discipline across a whole fight to basically win a fight. That's how I
saw a comment by someone earlier on Facebook. They said that it's not really his conditioning as such, or not completely. They think, well, in his opinion, it's got a lot to do with his mental state as well. He thought that as soon as he realises he's in a proper fight, he just starts panicking and like just loses loads of nervous energy, expends loads of nervous energy, and then that really just takes a lot out of him, and then he just gasses out like to a ridiculous extent, to the point where he's just sort of like he can't even stand up, he's like leaning over the ropes. He's just a sitting duck after that.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks like since the Tony Thompson fights that he's lost his killer instinct, because he was pretty much knocking everyone out before that. From what I know, I think he knocked nearly everyone out before Tony Thompson.
I think he did knock everyone out.
Yeah, something along the lines of that. And yeah, I think obviously a lot. Like if you hear from any fighters, I know a personal few people that box like in the ABAs, etc., and they say once you lose, like it does psychologically fuck you up, and it can really have an effect on your mentality going into a fight.
Yeah,
like it really can. Well,
I remember seeing David Price on Sky Sports when I think it was when David Haye was fighting Vladimir Klitschko. Was it? I think it was that. It was a big Klitschko fight in Germany, and he was there with the team, and they're in the ring, and they were saying to him, "Oh, so David, could you see yourself here?" And he just seemed a bit, I wouldn't say intimidated, but he didn't seem that confident. You know what I mean? Yeah. To me, he just didn't really. Someone like Tyson Fury, Andy Joshua, Dylan White. Pretty much anyone, like they're all just like, yeah, I do it. They've got total belief in themselves. he never really struck me as being particularly confident.
No.
So it
Well,
doesn't surprise me that having been knocked out. Now he gets in that fight, he just panics. He thinks, "What? I'm going to get knocked out here."
so just moving on to basically what you said. Where do you see David Price going from now? Who does he fight? Who does David Price fight?
I mean, I don't. It's not for me to tell him to retire or anything, but I can't really see where he goes from here. To be honest, I mean, like you say, he could fight at sort of British level. I mean, could he? I mean, he could beat Derek Chisora. I think after about 3 rounds of Derek Chisora putting it on him, he'd just be gassed out, just be
Agreed.
waiting to get knocked out. I can't see him beating Chisora. I could have done like a couple of years ago, maybe. Dylan White, I think anyone really, anyone like half decent can just survive a couple of rounds with him, and then. I mean, that Christian Hammer, he was literally like just walking up to him in straight lines and getting on his chest and like swinging punches at him. He's got like a height and reach advantage, and he can't use it.
But
It's
he
not like
did use it. When he looked good, he did use it. He
in the
did use
first
it when
round,
he
he
looked
used
good.
it.
Yeah.
He used the first round, but then as soon as it like you really put it on him, he just kind of seems to crumble. So you can't tell me he doesn't perform better than that in the gym.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So anyone like with a sort of who's half decent, someone like that, but with a bit more fight in him, I just can't really see him. I can't really see him not reaching his potential in terms of like the skill that he has. So I hope I'm wrong. To be honest, I like to see him come back, but for him to do that, I mean, he'd need to. If like Emmanuel Stewart was still alive, and he went out to America to train with Emmanuel Stewart, maybe I'd have a bit of faith that he could come back and do something. But in Rotherham, near where he's always lived, that's with Dave Caldwell, near like Liverpool's the same old. I don't really see anything getting better, to be honest. So
No.
yeah, so I kind of waffled with my answer, but basically, I don't really see him going anywhere from here. I think he's pretty much finished.
Yeah.
Hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I think he's a top lad. I mean, yeah. I haven't really got any comments to move on from there. I wish David Price all the best. I think he's as we said, he's a good lad. But
Yeah, and I mean, obviously people mug him off and take the piss. At the end of the day, I mean, he's British champion. He was he like Olympic bronze medalist? He's got like quite a few knockouts. He's not had a bad career. It's only because he was, spoken about as if he was going to be the next Vladimir Klitschko that now people are just sort of laughing at him like, who the fuck is this bloke? Do you know what I mean? He's supposed to be the next Vladimir Klitschko. So because he was put on that pedestal, I think early on, now people are just, people are just cunts, aren't they? They like to laugh. But I don't think his career has been as bad as it will be remembered for. A bit like Amir Khan in a way. I'm not saying he's achieved anything like Amir Khan, but do you know what I mean? People kind of focus on the bad stuff.
more than the good stuff. Yeah, no, they do.
So,
Right, one thing to ask you just before we do conclude.
yeah.
Obviously, there's speculation between Tyson Fury fighting Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, would have to be another video, that will, wouldn't it? Because otherwise we'd be here all night. But that's.
I'm not asking about that. I'm just saying, is it going to happen
Do you
this
think,
year? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it will do. I think it depend. If Anthony Joshua fights Deontay Wilder first, I think it's less likely. I think Anthony Joshua will just demolish him. To be honest, depending on how he does with Klitschko.
yeah.
If he doesn't get just flattened by Anthony Joshua first, Deontay Wilder, I mean, then yeah, I could see that fight definitely happening. I think so because they've obviously had a rivalry, haven't they?
Well, they've had a media beef anyway,
Yeah.
WWE style, as Deontay Wilder quoted in the ring after one of his last fights. Yeah, when Tyson got in his waist jacket.
Yeah, because I will baptise you. Was the last thing. Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think it will do. I think it was definitely. I mean, you never really know because obviously Tyson Fury, who knows like what he's going to do, and Deontay Wilder, who knows? Maybe after fighting Gerald Washington, next thing you know, he's fighting against some other bloke that we've never heard of from wherever. Do you know what I mean? You don't really know like what's going to happen, but I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see it.
Do you think Fury would need like a tune-up fight before getting in there with Wilder though? despite what he says.
He would, but then I don't know. Again, who's a good tune-up fight for Fury? I mean, he didn't. If he was to fight a no one, how much slating would he get for it?
But he doesn't have to fight nobody, but I'd say like Deontay Wilder's obviously a very dangerous opponent, very hard puncher, and like Fury's got a very good defence. I think he'd want to sharpen his tools up a little bit. He's been out just knock the ring rust off a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Someone who throws a lot of punches and someone who's quick, basically. That's what. If I was picking for him, just so he can, practice his defence a little bit, because he's been out of the ring for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
I think on that
All
one
right,
we'll
well,
see. We'll see.
hopefully it does get made and we can talk more about it. But we'll leave it there for today, shall we?
Yeah. No, I'm happy with that. I think definitely some videos to talk about that sort of thing in the future. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problems. Pleasure as always. Again, if you want a chat with a couple of other fights that are coming up pretty soon, then by all means, give me a shout. Definitely interested in going through whatever's going on. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of press coverage, as there always is, in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, let me know.
Yeah. We'll do, mate. We can do. I made a video about the Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia. But when it gets a bit closer, we can do another one. I made a kind of prediction, but things change, so we'll do one about that nearer the time, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely perfect, mate. I know we spoke about that before. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do it, but yeah, let me know. We'll definitely go through it. Fantastic fight to talk about.
All right, mate. Speak to you later.
Right, perfect, mate. Cheers. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.